true or false, Topher began his weight loss journey weighing 241 pounds. And what do you think, Green Warriors? If you have a guess, if you want to guess, of course, that's a hard question to answer because you don't know him, but it's just a way of letting you guys be engaged. And we already have someone that says true question mark and that's thanks. Welcome. Thanks. So do you want to tell us the answer?
That is absolutely true. December of 2024, I was 241 pounds at my heaviest.
Okay, so that was December. So that's a wonderful way to start off this broadcast, is to tell people who are challenged with their weight loss, if even if you weigh 241 pounds, it's not too late, and there is something that you can do. So now we would like to know more about what Topher does. So here's our next true or false question. True or false, Topher weighs and measures his portions of food. What do you think, Green Warriors? And while they're typing in their answers, why don't you tell us about that?
So when I was on the Weight Watchers program, it was absolutely necessary. But since I've become whole food plant based, I eat when I'm hungry and I eat until I'm full. And that is a brand new experience for me in my world, to be able to lose weight while eating until I'm satisfied.
Okay, well, very good. So tell us about this. You have now, since you're that weighing in December, how much weight have you lost?
Almost 30 pounds, Amy. It's been, right now I'm a little bit up. I started going to the gym, lifting weights, so I know that my muscles are holding some water. That's just a normal thing that I've read about. So I'm not upset about that. But I was at 211.5 pounds about 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
And so that's an exciting opportunity for me. I started actually the whole food plant-based diet in February of this year when our employee business resource group, called Survivors Network, had you as a guest and brought you on talking about weight loss and opportunities for a vegan lifestyle.
Yeah,
And
that's so nice to know that that you were one of the guests there, and you actually were benefiting from what I did. For those of you Green Warriors that don't know about this, I'm Food for Life, a licensed Food for Life instructor with Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and that gives me curriculum that I can go to corporate events and also to in-person events or virtual events, and I do all kinds of classes that is been the curriculum was designed by people very experts in Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. So you got a chance to see my presentations. And so what happened? You were watching, and then what went through your mind? What happened?
so I was watching and I just thought, gee, here's an opportunity that I haven't tried, right? I had tried um, being vegan before after reading, I think it's Food for Life by, um, the name escapes me at the moment, but
Eat for
Dr.
Life?
Furman.
Was it Eat for Life?
Eat for
That's
Life
Dr.
with
Joel
Dr. Furman.
Furman.
Right.
Okay.
And so I had tried to, just change my lifestyle, kind of cold turkey, if you will. And it didn't work out. So I kind of quit. And then when you came to speak to us, I had asked, how does one create a sustainable lifestyle and a sustainable diet that can help keep me whole food plant based? And so we talked a little bit about that. And I had a chance to have a one on one with you, and we talked at length for about an hour, and that really helped me solidify my ideas of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to move forward. I used the 21-day jumpstart, or is it 21-day kickstart?
Kickstart. Hmm.
Thanks. Yeah, with Dr. Barnard's book, and went through that step by step, day by day, and after 3 weeks, I was solid on the program.
Wow, that is amazing. Yes, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Well, Dr. Barnard actually wrote a book 21-day kickstart, because scientifically they say it takes 21 days to make a new habit. So he wrote that book so that people could follow along and make a new habit of what they're eating. But then they also added on an app so that you could put it on Android or iPhone, and it's a free app from Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and it helps you with meal plans, it helps you with the recipes and all kinds of things, and you can follow along for 21 days if that's, if you need some kind of a regimented plan. So I'm just so thrilled. Yes, yeah, and also I just want to let you know, Green Warriors, and you probably already know that I do plant-based coaching. So I do that, and I have clients and so forth. So I did have a consultation with Topher, and maybe that just kind of helped when, because you read things, but then I guess you have to figure out, but okay, but how is this going to work for me? Because
Right.
I'm not somebody in the book. I have these kinds of things in my life happening. I like these things. I don't care for these kinds of foods, or whatever it is. And sometimes you just need a little direction to get you started. But I'm still impressed.
Yeah.
It's just been wonderful. So, who does the cooking in your house?
Both my wife and I do. My wife is an ovo-lacto vegetarian, so her diet is a little bit different than mine. Um,
So for those of
and
you, ovo lacto, so ovo would mean eggs and lacto would mean dairy. So
correct.
she's a vegetarian, but she still would take in just the dairy and the eggs, right? But she wouldn't do fish or any other kind of meat.
Correct.
Hmm.
Correct. Yep. No meat at all.
Yeah.
Just basically cheese and and then the eggs. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's basically it. So I had tried that in the past and it wasn't working for me. Frankly, I grew up in Wisconsin, where that's the cheese capital of the world, and grew up on bratwurst and eating meat all the time, and so it was a real shift for me. And the cheese, I learned about the casomorphines from you, and talking about that and how addictive cheese can be, and how trying to leave that behind is really a challenge, and it really was. But after a few weeks, got past and over the hump, and just stuck with it. I was telling you previously in a conversation that I'm kind of a science nerd at heart, and I thought, well, I'll do this for 21 days as an experiment on my body to see what's going to happen. And in the first 21 days, I lost over 11 pounds, which was amazing.
I mean, when you compare that to other, because you probably have tried different kind. You talked about Weight Watchers, and there's other probably things that you tried.
Oh yeah,
How did that compare your success?
it was huge. It was hugely different. The Weight Watchers. I'd been on and off the program multiple times over the years, and I would lose a little bit, and then I would gain it back if I stopped. It's something that anybody can do. It seems like you put pressure on yourself to follow a plan or a program or points program, and the minute you stop, it all goes back to where you started from, or worse. I shouldn't say worse, but heavier than when you started. And yeah, it's so that was a real excitement for me to see the weight loss over 3 weeks, and then at that point I was like, well, let's see how far I can go.
That's that's
So now,
fantastic.
so now my goal is to get under 200. We'll see what happens. So
Oh,
that's my next step.
yeah. My clients call that Wonderland.
Ha, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So when you were doing these other weight loss plans, I'm sure you probably followed them the way that they instructed you to. So why do you think they didn't work for you?
I think that it was just too rigid, following points and trying to figure out, my downfall would always be the Chinese restaurant or the Mexican restaurant. And what do I do with the points that, how do I put this in my my app on my phone. How do I measure? I wasn't carrying a scale or measuring cups with me to the restaurant. So how do you estimate that? And I would just give up. And being a perfectionist at heart is also one of the things that I'm working on, to find that I can just go to progress over perfection.
Right.
But it in the past I was kind of polarized into, okay, we're going to do this all the way or not at all. So you go to a restaurant and you're kind of off program, and well, you may as well give up the whole day and may as well go home and have a couple cookies or a handful of cashews or whatever. And next thing you know, you're finding yourself kind of off track in a big way.
Mm. Yeah, and then when you're doing these points, you're still dipping your toe in the pool of these addictive foods.
Right.
So how can you possibly change your brain chemistry when you keep consuming these foods? It just doesn't make sense.
Right, the high fat and the nuts and seeds, your body wants those fats, and it gravitates toward that, as we found out in some readings, that there's that pull. And of course, the casomorphines and the dairy products, specifically the cheeses, pulling you in. Like you said, you either have to quit or try to balance, having a little bit. And I'm not a balancing act. I want to just eat my fill.
Mm.
And I can remember times when I would have 4 or 5 mozzarella cheese sticks in at one time, and it's not satiating. It doesn't fill you up, but your body desires it and craves it. And now I'll sit down with some broccoli and some cauliflower, and I make a homemade dip out of cashews and almond milk and some other ingredients, some chipotle peppers to spice it up a little bit. And I eat until I'm full, and I don't
Oh,
have a problem after it. And the pounds just fall off, literally.
yeah, Fix It Rick said cheese is so addicting. Oh, I definitely agree with that. And
Absolutely.
so for some reason, your screen froze up. So if I could ask you to, well, let's see if that changed. Nope. If you can remove yourself from the broadcast and then pop back
Okay.
in again. Oh, no, now you're good. For some reason, it was lagging and now you're good.
Okay. Yeah, we're having some pretty heavy storms up here right now. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah.
because we don't wanna miss out on your expressions. But, yeah, so and thanks said, "Incredible." Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So with that the Weight Watchers and the other things, weighing and measuring your food, when these foods is just so addictive. It is so difficult. And you talked about the casomorphines, and I'm not sure if everybody who watches this knows what that means. And if you want, you can explain it to them what you learned about dairy and cheese and casomorphines.
Yeah, so what I learned is that dairy and cheese break down the casein protein. It's a type of protein that's in milk and dairy products, and it breaks down into a morphine, what they call casomorphine, which is a highly addictive substance that your brain keys in on and can really create that addiction, like Fix It Rick just talked about, that it is so addicting. It really is. So as your body breaks it down, it's one of the protein side byproducts, I suppose you could say. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, that's very good. You did very well with that. We talk about how dairy milk, it's meant to grow a 70-pound calf into a 700-pound cow within a year. And so it's something that is specifically designed for that species to nourish them and to give them that rapid growth. But when humans take on that milk that's designed for that other species, how can they expect to have a different outcome as far as the weight gain? But the cheese is actually a more concentrated form of that milk. So now, when you have a small piece of cheese, it's like drinking a lot of milk. And and then these casomorphines, they're even more concentrated because of that breaking it down into cheese. And it's really the dairy is designed to have that calf want to come to mama because he's going to get a little hit of the casomorphines, but it's not going to change his brain chemistry the way it does to us. It's just going to give him that nice, happy feeling so that he doesn't wander off on the pasture and not come back, because he's always going to want to come back for some more. And unfortunately, that's what happens to us, but it's multiplied, when we're having these foods. And I often have tell me, Green Warrior, if you have adopted this lifestyle and you have uh, eliminated dairy, especially cheese, from your diet. Tell me what that experience was like. I know that I used to eat cheese. I wasn't always eating this way. And I think that that was one of the last things that I decided to eliminate. I eliminated a lot of things, and that was the one thing that I was kind of hanging on to. And I was also looking, okay, what could I find that I could substitute, and instead of
Mhm.
having the cheese. Yeah. And Fix It Rick said it really helps understanding the science of addiction. It's not my fault, but there are tools to overcome. Thank you for teaching us. Aw,
Yeah.
thank you, Fix It Rick. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, and then the high fat in the cashews, that I used to eat by the handfuls, almonds, pumpkin seeds, thinking that these were, and it is a healthy fat. It's not an unhealthy fat, but thinking that these are health foods when really, it's 9 calories per gram of fat, no matter how you slice it. And so I was ingesting these really calorically dense foods, uh, and not getting the fiber that comes from the whole vegetables and the whole foods, that I do now. With black beans, red beans, black eyed peas, lentils, things of that nature.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way to do that. And thanks that I started with fake cheeses, but then I weaned myself off of those, and there are other ways to flavor. I also did that too. I found those fake cheeses that they're vegan, but when you
Yeah,
look at the ingredients, there's a lot of oil in them,
yeah,
right? And because if you want to have something that's like cheese, you've got to have some kind of a fat content. And then when I realized that, and I said, okay, now I have to wean myself off of this, and which I did. But yeah, it can be kind of of a challenge to do that. So now maybe you want to talk about, so you were talking about that you're with your wife. So how does that work out? I mean, fortunately, she's a vegetarian, so it makes it a little bit easier that she kind of is understanding about some of what you're doing, but still you've got that mixed refrigerator. So what
right.
do you do with that?
I do a lot of meal prepping on Sundays. That's kind of my day to set out the week. I'll make a cowboy caviar, which is a recipe that you can find online. It's basically black eyed peas, corn, black beans, green peppers, onions, and jalapeno peppers. A lot of online recipes call for avocado, but I skip that. Number one, because of the fat, but number two, because avocado doesn't stay well past the half a day, unless you like brown avocado, which I don't. So I make that up in a big batch and then take that a cup at a time through the week to work. I'll make my brown rice in the instant pot, or I'll make sometimes I'll make some pasta to go with like a lentil spaghetti sauce that I make that's homemade. I just cook lentils and put in crushed and diced tomatoes and put a lot of seasoning in, and that keeps it oil and sugar free. Since so many sauces on the shelves these days, have a ton of sodium, a ton of sugar that, and some oil that you just don't want or didn't ask for,
Yeah.
just to keep it shelf stable,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
suppose. So doing that, and then quinoa is another great one, for the protein and the fiber, and I'll sometimes make that to go along with my beans, or I make a Szechuan tofu. I love making some Szechuan dishes, to get that spice and that flavor in there going along with it. So that's what I do. And then my wife, she works a standard schedule. Mine is kind of all over the place. I work in a 24/7 operation where my shift changes throughout the week, so I'm not home for dinner every night. So she'll make her own dinner and make her own lunch to take and stuff like that. So that's how we manage through it, and and get around that.
Ah, that's wonderful. And it's just amazing that you have found these different recipes that you like. Have now, when you first started and you tried different recipes, did you like every one that you tried?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Good.
I can remember making an Italian quote unquote dressing that was made from uh, dates and balsamic vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and some almonds, and all mixed up in the Vitamix. And that was not at all my style. So I found out, the things that I don't like very quickly, and I just cast them off.
Mhm.
There's a million recipes out there. I actually follow Dr. Furman's website, and I'm a member, so I have access to the recipes that are there. But there's a lot of free recipes that you can get from his website too. Um, I Going back to our work environment where we had our employee business resource group and you visited, I won a raffle and got the free ebook of Rick's recipes, which I highly recommend to anybody who's interested. It gives a lot of great recipes to follow and some ideas about, what you can do with an instant pot, with chickpeas and black beans, because I never would have thought to, really do that. So that's great, and you share your recipes in your newsletters that come out. And one of the recipes you know, that I found, I actually created my own lentil spaghetti sauce, just kind of doing what Rick does on the shows on YouTube, which is just follow your heart with your spices and your flavor, and taste it as you go because you can. Uh, with a whole food plant based diet, you're not dealing with raw meats or raw fish that you can't taste along the way. You don't have to worry about getting sick if you're tasting what you're cooking. So that's awesome, and that's what I
Yeah,
like to do.
that's so interesting. I know that when we first adopted this, and we were SOS free from the very beginning, so that's sugar, oil, and salt, none of that. And we followed some recipes, and of course, back in 2012, there wasn't as many resources as there are now. And in the beginning, there were a lot of food that we wound up just unfortunately we threw it away because we just it just wasn't palatable for us at that time because our taste buds had not yet adapted. And Rick thinks about it and he says, if I knowing what I know now, I would never have thrown any of those away. I would have just known, okay, I need to adjust it and put these different spices or whatever he would have had to do with it to make it taste better. And these are just things that you just kind of have to learn as you're doing this along the way.
It really is a trial and error, Amy. That's exactly it. You have to just give it a shot, and if it's not your forte, let it go and try something else.
Mhm. Have you ever heard of something called Rotel?
Yes, I use the Aldi version of that in my uh, in my cowboy caviar for
Okay.
my diced tomatoes because it comes with the green chilies, and
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually found that Rotel, in some places, you can even find the salt-free version of it, which has
Oh,
been very
really?
nice. Yes. And I know in Walmart, we have found it there. Where
Okay.
yeah, you just have the label doesn't look that much different, so you kinda have to study them, but and so whenever we see it, we buy a lot of these things, in bulk because
Yeah.
right? And, you have to at least leave one for somebody else, but, you have to get it because you know that you're gonna use it, and that's what we do, and it's nice when things are canned or, or vacuum sealed where you can keep them in the pantry, and it's so important, right? Have you learned about with what you're doing as far as keeping things in stock in the pantry? How do you stock
Oh, yeah.
yourself so that you're not always like, oh, I have to run to the store again? What do you do?
Yeah, it's funny. I keep about 6 cans of black beans on hand. I try to get the no salt added version of them. I get the no salt added corn. Lately here, I've been just for convenience and time and money wise, been shopping at Aldi, which does have the sodium in it. So, like I said to you earlier, I haven't been SOS free or salt, oil, and sugar free for the last 3 4 weeks. But I know that I can tell the difference in my weight loss journey. I'm not losing as fast,
Mhm.
and you know, so there's that. The kind of plateau, if you will, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
But
well, the salt makes me go ahead.
definitely always keep chickpeas on hand to make some aquafaba hummus. And aquafaba, for folks that don't know, because I didn't know at first, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this thing I need to buy from the store?
Sounds like a
It's
superhero or something.
right. It's just the water that comes in the chickpeas in a can, or if you're making chickpeas in your instant pot, it's the liquid left over is aquafaba, and it acts like an egg white almost for coating your tofu, dipping it in the aquafaba before you maybe put a little cornstarch on, and then brown it up in a pan. You can do that, or adding it as a liquid to your chickpeas to make some hummus, which I love. So there's that, and chipotle peppers are definitely always in my pantry, along with gobs of cumin and chili powder, Italian seasoning, and red pepper flakes.
Mm,
So I like the spicy. I like to taste the flavors of spiciness. Not the habanero hot, but
right.
just a little spice
Little bit
to
of
get
kick.
things
It's a little bit of
right.
kick.
Just a little kick.
Mhm.
Just a little kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My tolerance has definitely gone up as far as spices go because before eating this way was a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, sweeteners and things. And so now as the years go by, because Rick likes things a little bit more spicy than me. So,
Mhm.
he's kind of gradually been adding and making things with a little bit more heat. And I've learned and grown to like them. And it's really nice because when you don't have that salt, now you can taste, and the oil too, which kind of coats your tongue. Now you
Yes.
can taste things, that maybe you couldn't taste them before.
Absolutely right. That's exactly right. When you get rid of the sugars, you actually taste the sugars that are natural in the foods. Like sweet corn becomes so much sweeter when you're not mixing it with a dressing like an Italian dressing off the shelf, which I always thought, here's the low fat version of a dressing. Great, that's got to be an excellent idea. But what they do is they add sugar into it, high fructose corn syrup or just straight sugar to make it sweet, to make it more palatable because they've taken some of the fat out. And, doing that and starting to really read labels is so important on your journey, I think, to really understand what is it that we're consuming and how can we change what, our habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell my clients, don't look at what the front of the label says, and don't even look at the nutrition facts. Just go right to the ingredients. And that's
That's
all you need to know is right there, the ingredients.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. There's so much that's just chocked full, and I'll say that my guilty pleasure is the wheat thin, using that as a vessel for my hummus as opposed to a carrot chip. So there, once in a while I'll sneak some wheat thins in, and I've been doing that kind of regularly lately, which I need to cut back on. I know, the ultra processed foods,
Yeah,
but because they have the fats, they have the salts, and that's how they get you.
right. And they also don't have the fiber and they don't have the water, so it takes more to fill you up
Spot on.
of those. So, and I like what you said about the carrot chips. One of my clients has one of those crinkle cut kind of slicers.
Ah,
So she likes to take radishes, carrots, and she'll crinkle cut them, and then they have more of a crunch and more of that mouth feel, and they look pretty too,
right.
right? So there's a lot of things, and then of course then they have like mandolins that you could do it on if you want to do it faster than that little hand tool thing. So there's ways to do that, and I often find that there are other vessels that you can use. One of the and one of my other clients, she was struggling because she wanted to get those the bagged uh, fajita tortilla wraps or whatever. And she's like, I know they have some oil, but oh well. And I said, well, have you ever seen Napa cabbage? I don't know. Have you, Topher? Have you ever seen Napa cabbage?
I'm aware of it. I've never
Yeah.
seen it in
So it
person.
kind of looks like a head of lettuce, except it's long and it's
Okay.
very kind of like iceberg lettuce is very tightly wrapped. So it just, but it has these wonderful little ridges, kind of like a romaine. So it almost looks like a romaine, but it's
Okay.
lighter in color, and it's so crunchy, and and it's sturdy. So you could use a romaine lettuce leaf, but the ends of them are kind of they're wimpy and they don't hold up. So sometimes you can roll them up or whatever. But the Napa cabbage, it's crunchy and it's sturdy, and you can use that as a when you want that crunch. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful vessel, and it's so high in nutrients, and it lasts a while. Kind of like the romaine lettuce lasts a little longer than some of the other ones. So it
Okay.
lasts a while in your and then another one that I like is baby bok choy, not bok choy.
Oh,
It's
right.
baby bok choy. So it looks like, I don't know if you've ever seen that. But,
Yeah,
but
I've had that at the Chinese restaurants.
yeah, yeah.
They
And you
add
can
that
just
in.
put your hummus in there, and it's crunchy, and
Yeah.
it's it's lasts a while in your refrigerator, which is nice. And and then if you one of the things that I like for crunch is red cabbage.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's
So yeah, actually my daughter, she's plant-based, and what she likes to do is she likes to take a whole head of red cabbage and cut it up into like chunks so that she can just grab a piece and eat it like like it's almost like a, I don't know, it's more of a of just something that you can hold in your hand. And some of it, of course, falls apart. And she'll put that in a Ziploc bag. Now, sometimes she will add balsamic vinegar in the Ziploc bag too.
oh,
And then she just zips it up, and she'll take it traveling, take it to work or whatever. And then when she wants that crunch, you
yeah,
know, I mean, I can just eat that red cabbage. I can eat it by itself. To me, I just love the flavor. But for some people that have not, had their taste buds, uh, you know, been a little bit exposed to these things, that they need some kind of flavoring, put in the balsamic vinegar, and it's so good. And sometimes you just want to crunch on stuff.
absolutely. And you mentioned something there about your daughter taking food to work, and I think that's a huge thing. Is you've got to be prepared, and
Mhm.
you've got to have something on hand for when that craving hits you at work, so that you're not going to the vending machine, or wherever down the road to the fast food restaurant. Having something, not only just what you think you're going to eat for lunch, but a snack too. Whether it's I always carry mandarin oranges and a banana with me. That's my thing. We go through a lot of bananas at the house and a lot of mandarin oranges. Um, so I really like those as my fruit choices. Raw blueberries are great,
Yeah.
especially now that they're in season, right? Well, they're kind of ending the season, but June was a great month. Let's say it that way.
Hmm.
With the blueberries down here in the south, where I'm located. So,
Yeah.
um,
Another snack that I like is frozen cherries.
oh, frozen grapes are great too.
Yes. Yeah.
You wash them and just put them in the freezer for maybe 10, 15 minutes and they come out just excellent. They're half frozen and great and chewy, and it's a different experience, a different texture, and it's something that takes the ordinary away.
Yeah. And these are the things that you've discovered along the way. And that's the thing, when somebody adopts this lifestyle, we don't just know everything that we need to know right
Oh
away,
no,
right? We have
not
to
at all.
go through trial and error and learn and be kind to ourselves. And
Yeah,
Green Warriors, if you have a question for Topher, just go ahead and type in the chat, and I'll ask him a little bit later in the broadcast. And oh, okay, we have a question actually.
Ah,
Okay, so Angel wants to know what's a typical day of eating look like for you now?
well, okay, so I'll just go with today. What we've got for today, Angel, is started off the day with 2 slices of Ezekiel bread, low sodium, with some natural peanut butter from Whole Foods, which is just peanuts ground. You've got to be careful with that because it's it's high in fat. It's a legume, but still, you've got to watch it. But I just put a little smear on the bread to give it a little something. A cup of coffee. On my way to work, a banana. I also had a fruit bowl this morning, which was banana and a pineapple and a handful of fresh blueberries. For lunch, I'll have brown rice and red beans with onions and green peppers. And then for dinner, I might have, a little bit of hummus. I don't usually eat a lot at night. I find myself eating throughout the day more and really bulking at that middle meal. And then, just kind of coasting through the night. Maybe a glass of almond milk if I'm, really feeling it. But that's a great question.
Yeah, yeah, because everybody got has a different way of doing things with their meal plans, and oftentimes, especially in the United States, we've been programmed that you have to have a breakfast like with cereal or
Yeah,
eggs, or and oftentimes people, they just don't know, what do I eat for breakfast if it's not those things. But most other countries, they eat vegetables for breakfast. They don't have cereal. So it's something that you have to kind of rethink about what you're doing. And there's not this one kind of food, doesn't mean you can only have it, in the afternoon or the evening. You can have it any time of the day. Okay.
exactly.
All right. Oh, so Erica wants to know, have friends or family noticed your transformation?
That's a great question, Erica. I had a friend at work who sits next to me. She was out of the office, and I was out of the office for about a month. And so time passed, and I walk in the office, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you've really lost some weight, haven't you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, thanks for noticing. I have. I think, I haven't really been away from a lot of people for a long time. So, the transformation, with my wife seeing me every day, or my kids, or even myself looking in the mirror. Amy put up a picture of me from December and then a picture of me from but this week actually, and I can see it in that. But other than that, yeah, people don't. People that I haven't seen for a while notice, I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And but there sometimes there are, it's what I call non-scale victories with my clients.
Hmm.
Sometimes you go on that scale and you'll say, "Oh, I lost some weight," and then sometimes that scale won't be your best friend, and maybe you gained a little weight, or you didn't lose any weight at all because you're on a plateau. And I always encourage them to look around for non-scale victories. So, have you noticed anything besides the weight loss that has changed about you that we could call a non-scale victory?
Oh, definitely. For a while, my ring wouldn't stay on my hand because I'd lost body fat. Now that I've been at the gym and strengthening my hands and my grip, my ring stays on. So that's a great thing. And I've also noticed that my belt line, uh, I'm not quite to where I need another notch in the belt, but it's coming soon. And so my clothes fit differently, and I'm more comfortable in my clothing than I was back in December when the legs in my pants were tight, and I felt my belly kind of pushing out against the buttons on my shirt, and not really be just knowing that I wasn't really comfortable where I was at.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, and that's what I try to encourage my clients to always be looking for those things about, because sometimes they'll. I had one client who was walking in a restaurant, and she noticed that she needed to go in between some tables that were
Mm.
set up in the restaurant, and she noticed that her brain was saying, "You're not gonna make
Mhm.
that tight space. You're gonna have to find a different way to go around because you're not gonna make it through." But then she did,
Right.
you know? So these are the things that I'm encouraging you and the Green Warriors on your journeys. Look for these things,
Definitely.
because those are gonna be things that are gonna let you know that you're on the right track and things are going well, and maybe if the scale isn't your best friend at this time, as long as you're following the plan, you're gonna find these things happening.
Yeah, and staying motivated is one of the things that I, really had I guess, a challenge with, to an extent. I just grabbed on really tight and held on to the whole scientific experiment for the first 21 days. But after that, I found Esther, whose last name escapes me,
Yes.
but she's on Facebook and
Esther
has been a
Loveridge,
guest on your show a few
she's been
times.
on, yes, absolutely, she's been on the show, and she has a Facebook group that she posts what she eats and has a lot of motivational things that she posts. So you found Esther.
Yeah, so just looking through her posts and reading her daily words, was a great just kind of jumpstart, kickstart along the way, to keep you going when you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to manage this through, life? I won't go into the details, but I've had a case of life a couple of times recently, and it's you can't let life get in the way of what you're trying to accomplish, which is a healthy lifestyle and really changing your life and making yourself healthy for the future. You can't let that happen. So many times in the past, I'd be like, well, now isn't the time, or it's not the perfect time to start, or it's, you know, now it's not the time to concentrate on it. Let me just go and have a soda and some ice cream and, whatever it was to make me feel good at the moment. And, it just, you have to stay motivated and find a way to just dig in and just really be entrenched in what you want. Some days it's a war for me, in my mind, and that's, I think that's everybody, right?
Yes, that is everybody because, in one time or another, some people seems to happen to them every day, and that they don't get any relief from it. And other people, sometimes things are going a little bit better, and then they, go through that cycle of life where things aren't. But you really, in order to get through these things, if we can be at our with optimal health and our brain chemistry to be stable, I think that helps us to get through these times in our lives better than when our brain chemistry is all whacked out and we're not feeling our best physically. So think it's that's time more than ever that you need to stay committed to this.
Exactly. And then, I was going to say one of the tricks that I found, was the Sukari date, Sukkari, dates. So not the medjool, which are the bigger ones, but these are little and about the size of a walnut. But they are the most caramel flavored dates that I've ever had.
Mm.
And I'm sure they're high in sugar, but
Mhm.
when you need something sweet and you're really, going back to those old cravings of a Snickers bar or a Twix bar or something like that, just having a date to chew on and say, okay, you know what, this is enough. Let me just get through the next 15 minutes with
Mhm.
this one date. Really, it's a trick that works.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great strategy. And all these things that you're going through now, as you stick with this and your taste buds neuroadapt even more,
Hmm.
you'll look back and say, I used to have to, get one of those Sakari dates, or I used to do this, or I used to do that. It'll be a thing that you used to do, and now, it's not something that you feel that you need to do. It's a wonderful thing when if you just keep going, you're going to notice a lot of those changes. And Fix It Rick said, what about going out to eat with friends? What do you do?
That's a good one. My friends know that I am vegan, basically, for lack of better term. They don't, because they don't understand what whole food plant based means.
Hmm.
So you say vegan, they're like, oh, okay, I'll find a vegan restaurant. There's some Mediterranean restaurants that are great. Mexican restaurants are always a good go-to. You know, you can find yourself a vegetable fajita, or just eat the fajita, the veggie fajita without the tortilla if you want to,
Mm,
avoid the tortilla factor. Um, okay, so guilty pleasure, the Impossible Whopper at Burger King.
mhm,
Everybody can find something they want fast food, and I can have something that's, totally high in sodium, but, hold the mayo, hold the cheese, and it's still, in the plant-based realm of
mhm,
possibilities. Um, we'll go to Chick-fil-A and I'll have a salad and a lemonade, hold the cheese again, hold the meat, and, I'll have fries once in a while, because they're yummy.
mm.
And, it's, and, that's just that. But that's a great question. In fact, we have, not to advertise Amy, but Papa Murphy's makes those pizzas that you can just pop in your oven, and take them home. And they will make pizza with half cheese and half not. So my wife,
Oh,
who eats the cheese,
cheese,
gets
yeah.
her half of a pizza, and then I get my
Mhm,
half. And of course, it's got the flour, the white flour, and the crust. But
mhm.
it's there are worse things to have and to worry about. So once in a while doesn't, in moderation, doesn't hurt. I think, at least there's that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going through your transformation and you'll see what works for you. And I know that one place that I think is wonderful is that fast food restaurant, Wendy's,
Mm,
because they serve a salad and
and
they also serve sweet potatoes.
do they now?
Yes, and you just have to make sure you say, "I want it plain, no butter, no anything like that." So even if you have to do a drive-through and you're like, "Gosh, I'm just really so hungry," you can drive up to Wendy's and say, "Can I have a salad and a sweet potato?" And just make sure you tell them plain. So that's a wonderful thing,
Awesome.
because you
Yeah,
never know. But I do tell my clients when you're, out and about, you should never leave home without food.
yeah.
And, because then you won't get in a situation where, because sometimes you get a flat tire, sometimes your car breaks down, sometimes you're stuck in traffic, and then all of a sudden that excusitarian in your brain that says, well, I guess we better go get something to eat and whatever. But if you had that cooler bag with you, you would always have something. Do you ever carry anything around with you when you are going out and about?
When I'm out and about, I'll carry some almonds, maybe some walnuts. Very few. I when we travel, I like to carry the mandarins, some seltzer waters, some bananas.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I'm not really. I'm how do you say? Because of the way that I eat now, I don't find myself ravenously hungry.
Hmm.
At the normal, like 6 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. times that used to kind of happen. It's just okay. Well, I'm feeling a little hungry now, so I'll eat a little mandarin orange, or I'm feeling a little hungry now. I'll have a banana, or I'll actually sit down and have something to eat if it's the right time.
Hmm.
Um, Being a 24/7 operation, I don't really have a lunch break specific, so it just happens when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's all the more reason to bring your own food and always be prepared. So
Exactly.
Mark said, "What small steps have helped you the most on your journey?"
I think the book 21 Day Kickstart by Dr. Barnard helped the most because it has a daily, uh, after you get through the first part of reading the book and get into your 21-day pattern, there's a reading for the day. And it's kind of a little coaching and a little punch on the shoulder, like, hey, you're going to be okay. Let's think about this, or let's think about that. Let's think about the changes that are happening in your body. So I think that book is really great. And, just letting your friends and family know, the people who care about you will help you adapt. or won't say like, hey, let's, have this birthday cake and ice cream or anything, crazy like that. They're going to stand with you and stand by you.
Yeah, that's a big deal because there are some people that, are your friends and maybe sometimes they don't quite understand what you're going through. And I often see that it seems that people have, I don't know, it kind of puts a mirror up to them when we make changes like this.
Mm,
So, it often sometimes it makes them get defensive. I don't know if that's something that you have ever experienced, but I've seen that with some of my clients that maybe their friends or family members will kind of get defensive about. And meanwhile, this person has not been trying to tell them that they should eat this way at all, but yet the person is saying, well, I'm not going to do, I'm just going to do this, or or maybe, and even sometimes people have spouses that may try to sabotage what they're doing, because it's scary when you see somebody making a change, and then they're not, you're hoping that it's just going to be a short-term thing,
yeah.
which is sad, but fortunately it seems like your wife is on board with what you're doing.
Yeah, and I have three kids who are supportive as well. Their concern is, that the main concern that I had when I first changed was, where am I going to get my protein from? Because
Mm,
I'd heard so much about protein this and protein that and protein, 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 and you really don't need as much as you think you do. I, at least that's my experience,
mhm.
um, personally, and I find protein in beans, and I find protein in, uh, my brown rice, and find that there's bits of protein in all whole foods. That as you look at it, it's just how much is there going to be. Tofu has an awesome amount of protein in it. I love that, and chickpeas have a little bit, not a lot, but that's great. So
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it seems that there's a lot of emphasis on the protein where they've actually done studies on human breast milk, and there's probably like 9 grams of protein in, there's not that much protein in human breast milk, and that's the time in the human lifespan where you're going to go through the most rapid growth. And
right.
so you would think that that would be the time that you would need the most protein. So we really don't need as much as we're told that we need. And there is quite a lot of protein in these plant foods. And then when you think about the animal products, they're high in protein, but they're even higher in fat.
Absolutely.
So when
And
people chase, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I was watching a documentary, and you kind of have to consider who's telling you that you need the protein. Is it the Dairy Association? Is it the Cattle Ranchers Association that's telling you you need the beef, or what is it? Who's telling you this? And you have to put that into consideration so that you know kind of where your life is being advertised from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, and there've been people like me, I've been doing it for over a decade. I go for my physical exams every year, and I've never had my physician ever, worry about my protein or anything,
Right.
so it's not been a problem for me, and I work out, and I can make muscle, so I don't, I might not look like a big bulked up bodybuilder, but I'm strong. So,
Right.
that's something that people just kind of need to be aware of. So, plant-based mama said, what advice would you give to someone who's skeptical?
That's a really great question. I think, I would give the advice of getting into the documentaries about a vegan lifestyle, watching Be Green with Amy podcasts or YouTube videos, and really kind of trying to immerse yourself in the knowledge of what's really going on. Again, I'll bring in Dr. Barnard's book, if they read it and understand it and just read through it without even doing it, there's going to be a shift in their mindset about, what is good for you and what is not. And then, if you are plant-based as well, plant-based mama, you can lead by example. And I think the quiet leading, leading quietly by example is a lot better than trying to say you need to do this or you need to do that or what have you.
Well, that's very well said. I like that. And Eileen wants to know, how do you stay motivated during plateaus?
That's a great question. So, I'll flip through Facebook and read some stuff that Esther's posted, or I'll watch a video, Be Green with Amy, or I'll watch a documentary on vegan lifestyle just to keep me solidified in my reasons, for my own health and my own heart health. Um, you know, it, um, I think the other thing to know is that a plateau happens. Plateaus are going to come and they're going to pass, and you just have to be firm in your faith and understanding that it this is just a normal thing.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And I talk to my clients and I say it's kind of like a graph where you're going to see, well, usually you see a weight loss right away. But then you're going to see that plateau, but then you're going to see a little more weight loss and then a plateau. And as long as you keep trending down, because your body has to adjust a little bit and figure things out. But as long as you keep seeing that trending down, then you're doing the right thing. And there's always, of course, everybody has a different way of needing tweaks sometimes if they're not seeing any success. If they're just kind of plateauing and they can't get off that plateau, then there are things, tips and tricks that I share with them in order to kind of, tighten up the screws a little bit and take it to the next step. And I think for some people, just trying it, right, you're gonna find definitely find success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me just see. I think we had another. Okay. Let me look at this comment here. Sorry. Oh, earlier, thanks, said frozen grapes are like candy. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I don't know if thanks was able to hear. She wanted to know, or he wanted to know how. You said, made a comment. You're like a pro in the kitchen. Sounds delicious. Does your family also eat plant based
Um,
foods?
my wife has been checking out some recipes and printing out some things that she would like to try or would be willing to eat, if I make them. So that's a great thing. But again, my wife is a ovo-lacto vegetarian, so she eats eggs and cheese. My son is an omnivore, so our refrigerator is full of all sorts of different things, as well as our pantry. And that makes it I don't find it to be a challenge because I don't feel that pull anymore. I've been away from meats and dairy long enough that I'm safe to be around them. And
Yeah.
again, with my wife eating the cheese, I see it all the time, but it doesn't pull on me anymore like it used to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that. I think that would have been a challenge for me if I had it in the refrigerator. So I'm really impressed with you because for some people it wouldn't work, but
Yeah,
you're making it work. And I think because like you said earlier, I mean you you're using your brain for this. You're looking at the research and you're looking at the results, and your brain is saying this makes sense, right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like I said in the beginning, I'm a science nerd at heart. So this really, as I read and I think about things and look at the graphs and look at the data, the data really points to the fact that a whole food plant based lifestyle is really where it's at, and that we've done a lot more damage to our bodies by eating animal based foods than we can do good.
Right. We have a lot of catching up to do for those of us that have been doing this for decades, right? We have a lot of work to do as far as get trying to repair any of the damage that we did by eating the foods that were so deleterious to our health. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah. So, and then let me see if I had another. I think I had. Oh, yeah. So Marley said, yes, I deal with that. Hubby is omnivore and I'm almost 100% whole food plant based, but still eat small amounts of sardines a couple times a week. Yeah. And these
Yeah.
are the things this is real stuff, right? These are things that
Right.
people are going through these real challenges, but
Yeah.
you're recognizing it, right? And
Right.
and don't let that make you say, okay, now I'm whatever. I'm just not going to do this anymore, right? Because you're on track and you're going to make this work.
Right. Yeah. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, they say. And, if you can, make a challenge, make a change for yourself and challenge yourself. And, if you have sardines a couple of times per week and that's where you're at right now, then that's awesome because think
Hmm.
about how much you're not.
Yeah.
It's, don't think about the little part that you do, think about all the things that you don't, and take satisfaction in that progress. That progress over perfection conversation comes up again, and that's a real thing. So yeah, awesome job, Marley.
Yeah, and then Marley added, our whole family is omnivore, and I stuck to my lifestyle. It's much easier now. It used to be very difficult. Yes,
Oh yeah, I bet.
yeah, yeah, and there you go, and you're quite welcome, Marley.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for you, and I know that you had shared a story about something else that you quit.
Oh
Topher,
yeah.
you want to tell us
Yeah.
about that? Because I think it applies to what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. So on this kind of goes along with the leading by example. So February 13th of 2009, I quit smoking. And you asked me why I remember the date. It was Friday the 13th, but the day prior, my middle son had picked up a cigarette and put it in his mouth. And, he was 2.5. And I decided that that is not the lifestyle that I want to make an example for my kids. And, changed my life, changed my mind, and decided to quit that day. And 2 days later, on Friday the 13th, I quit.
Isn't that wonderful? And I think that if we could kind of keep things like that in our mind when we have family and friends, that they're watching us as we're navigating this lifestyle, and I think that if we can just keep continuing on and showing them the progress without preaching, right, without
Right.
having to trying to change their minds about what they're doing, because I certainly don't want anybody to tell me how to eat, right? I'm happy with what I'm doing at this time in my life. So but then you do set that example and people are watching, and
They really are. And
yeah.
if your why is strong enough, I think, you have to come up with the why.
Mm.
And for me, it's, heart health, overall health in the body, reducing my cholesterol, which was, on the borderline of being high, uh, looking at my sugars and I was not pre-diabetic, but it was on the high side of that, scale that they give you when the doctor gives you the results on your little portal. Uh,
On the A1C, yeah.
yeah, actually, it was the blood sugar, not
Oh,
the
they actually
A1C.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the fasting sugar
Alright.
was a
Yeah,
little high.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, so, all these things, and I'm looking forward to my next physical where I can, go in and say, look, here I'm down poundage, and hopefully I get some great results on my blood work.
Yeah,
Uh,
and how many people actually look forward to a physical, so that's
right.
another motivating thing. Yeah, you can just kind of mark that date on the calendar and say, "I'm gonna try and do what I can to make it the best outcome." I remember, before we even heard about this lifestyle, uh, my husband we were younger, my husband wanted to get some life insurance because our children were still young and at home, and his physician, who never promoted this lifestyle at all, said to him, "Okay, so what you want to do for this blood test for the insurance is for the week before your blood test for the insurance, just eat salad. Just eat
Wow.
salad. And he said, and your numbers will go down, and then you'll get a better premium. So meanwhile, he knew the answer.
Right.
And we knew the answer, but we didn't learn. We still didn't, we were like, okay, I guess that's what you do. And then we went along our merry way and ate after that, whatever we wanted to do because we didn't hear about the science. And so then you
Right.
hear about the science and you realize, yes, it not only will lower your cholesterol and lower the numbers, but it'll also keep you healthy. You don't have to worry about things like protein and so forth. Well, I really enjoyed our chat, Topher. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us today. I mean, your story, it's truly inspiring. And I think it's going to motivate so many of my green warriors to keep going on their health path, you know?
Absolutely never give up.
So, yeah, so what is that? I was going to ask you what your final take home message is for a green warrior.
I just, if I could, say to everybody that, don't give up, it gets better, and just keep on keeping on.
Yes, absolutely. Don't give up. Very good, very good. And this is so motivational. I'm so looking forward to hearing the feedback from the people that watch it on the repeat. And I also have it on podcasts. So if you go to Apple Music or any of those places, the podcasts there, you'll definitely be able to hear it there. So you can play it on the go, even on the airplane, wherever you want to go. Green Warrior, tell us what you're going to remember, from this broadcast and maybe what is motivating you to either adopt this lifestyle or take it to the next level. And I really want to thank you, Green Warrior, for joining us today. Your engagement and your support really make these discussions meaningful and impactful. And I hope you're feeling inspired to take a closer look at your food choices, make some positive changes for your health and well being. And because every bite that we take, right, it's an opportunity to nourish our bodies and, like Topher and me, become the healthiest versions of ourselves. And please do stay tuned for more empowering content. And please subscribe to my channel and check out all the different social media that I have because I try to put out a lot of content for all of you to help support your goals. Because together as Green Warriors, we can really make a meaningful difference in the whole world if we just do this together. And I would also like to invite all of you, if you are interested, I offer 5 free recipes. So if you go to my website, begreenwithamy.com/join, and then you will get 5 free recipes from me sent to your inbox. And that can be a lot of fun for you to enjoy. Oh, and thanks, said very uplifting, understanding the science and giving grace. Thank you, Topher and Amy. Aw, that's so
Awesome.
nice of you. See, you're already touching a lot of lives, and it's just so amazing and so wonderful. And
That's
if you
awesome.
would like to join me and Topher, we're going to go ahead and saying my tagline. But before that, I want to invite all of you to go and take your left hand and grab your right shoulder and take your right hand and grab your left shoulder and squeeze, because that's a hug from me to you. That's a hug from me to you, Topher, because it was so kind of you to come on this broadcast and share your tips and your tricks and your triumphs and really help motivate all of us to keep on with this lifestyle because there's so much benefit to it. So, are you
Abs-
ready to join me, Topher?
yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, until I see all of you again, remember, be strong, be well, and be green. Thank you so much, Topher. Thank you, Green Warriors. Always a pleasure to have all of you join here. And I hope that all of you will come back again really soon and enjoy some more interviews that I have.
Now you can listen to Be Green with Amy expert interviews wherever you go. Listen while walking, meal prepping, or traveling. Find Be Green with Amy on Apple, Google, Alexa, Amazon, or virtually anywhere you find podcasts. Be